What's going on, guys? Welcome to October's episode of Plus Club, delayed episode of Plus Club. Chevy was in Japan, and he's back now, and we're filming again, so that's why it's delayed. I'm Seth, and joining me today, of course, is Chevy, back from Japan. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode, which was Game of the Month, but yeah, welcome back. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're excited to talk about WWE 2K24, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, and Dead Space. And how you doing?
Doing good. Fortunately, played two of those fairly recently, so it'll be a little easier for me to talk about. I played WWE before my trip, so I might be a little fuzzy on that one. But
It's a wrestling game.
But it shouldn't be too complicated. Yeah, and then obviously, with our upcoming games as well, which I think are available Tuesday. So
Very soon, yeah, which is nice. Yeah, we'll talk about this in a sec. Real quick question. We didn't talk about this in the last episode, but I'm going to ask it now for people who maybe want to hear. What was your favorite food in Japan? And least favorite?
My least favorite, sadly, I had a traditional Japanese meal where it was just a bunch of small bowls with a bunch of small portions of a bunch of different things with some raw egg whites to throw on my rice. And that particular part of the meal, I hated. So.
I heard that's a breakfast in Japan. It's just putting egg on rice, raw.
Or with natto, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I tried as well. I don't hate natto, but I would not choose to eat it either. It is kind of meh.
What is that for anybody who doesn't know?
It's fermented soybeans. It is a little smelly. People often describe it as like a foot smell, but people say that about blue cheese as well, and I love blue cheese, so I was like, I'll probably be able to handle natto.
People also talk up Limburger like it's the craziest smelling thing,
and
I love cheese, so when I first tried Limburger, I was like, that's definitely pungent, but it smelled like cheese to me, so I was like, this is probably gonna be good, and it was pretty good. So
yeah, natto, I mean, it definitely has a funky smell, but it was fine. I wouldn't choose to eat it. I understand that it's eaten because of its health benefits, because it has a bunch of stuff good for your guts. Plus, beans are high in fiber and stuff. So
that's like durian.
Yeah,
I think it's called. I really want to try that.
Trash,
everybody says it smells terrible, but it's supposed to taste pretty good. Otherwise, why would you eat it? But
I heard some people say it's sweet, and some people, because smell is obviously a huge part of your taste, they'll still taste basically a trashy taste.
Oh,
from
interesting.
It. So I would be curious as well, though. I'm pretty open-minded about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would love to try it.
As far as favorites go, that's really, really hard. I don't think I had a bad meal when I was in Japan, which is great to say. I did have some really not so American barbecue, but
You went to a place called Texas.
It was called Texas. Which advertised steak and tacos, and they did not have tacos, and the only steak they had was skirt steak. So it was fine.
Yeah,
I stuck to Japanese food after that, though.
Yeah, it's definitely a novelty place.
Yeah. But I guess to speed this up, karaage or fried chicken is good everywhere. It's kind of like pizza. Even bad pizza can be good pizza, or it's good pizza. It's the same thing with karaage. It was always good. Some places had some pretty dope karaage, though. And then I really liked okonomiyaki, which is a cabbage pancake. So
I want to try that sometime.
Yeah, it was really good. But yeah, everything I had was at the very least good. Some things were really good. So
yeah.
I had sushi while I was there, and it was sushi. Maybe it's because of where I live, but it wasn't mind blowing to me.
Yeah, you can get decent sushi here. So, yeah.
And I said my least favorite, the raw eggs on rice. That's not a texture I enjoy at all.
Yeah, I think the texture would be the biggest issue for me, because the flavor, whatever, I've eaten stuff with raw egg or semi-raw egg, but the idea of just eating rice with gloopy raw egg, it just doesn't sound like something I would
it's
be
definitely
into.
The whites that throw me off, because I eat my eggs with yolk most of the time, so that part doesn't even I honestly think I could probably do that, but the whites are not good raw in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe that. Although people are used to different things. I know,
Culturally,
not that I need to hear anything from the British when it comes to food, but they'll look at like biscuits and gravy, and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" And then they'll eat it and like it, but it is just an American biscuit with just gravy on it. So that might not
is a thick roux, basically.
Yeah.
So
just delicious, but people look at that, they're like, "Ew, why would you eat
terrible
that?"
for you? But yeah, it's all flavor.
Yeah, it's good. I love breakfast though. But anyway, aside from all that, anything else?
No. I mean, it was a good trip. I'm sure anyone interested has watched 1.5 million videos of people going to Japan and saying they loved it. I'm no different in that regard at this point after being there. I do absolutely plan on revisiting when I can. So
definitely. All right. Well, fun to hear. Let's talk about WWE 2K24, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, and Dead Space, the games we played in October. Obviously, with the caveat that you were gone for 3 weeks, we did play the games. Before we do that, though, let's talk about the games that are coming out in a couple days, which are Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. I'm going to try and shorten that every time I mention that this month. Ghostwire Tokyo and Death Note Killer Within. Those are our games for November on PlayStation Plus. And we got a racing game, a first-person shooter style game, and what I found out was a social deduction game based off of Death Note, which is intriguing as hell to me. What do you think about these games?
Well, I'm sure Hot Wheels will be baseline just fun because
First one was good.
the first one was good. So I have played Ghostwire before, so
I've beaten Ghostwire.
I will be curious to see how it plays on PlayStation 5. I played on PC. I did not beat it, but I had played after they had added a bunch of stuff too. So the game, and I'm slow with this kind of games anyways, and I do all the side stuff, and but I have played that. I'll kind of reserve my thoughts because I'd just be spoiling the end of the month then. And then man, what a curveball with that Death Note game.
First off, didn't know there was a Death Note game. Secondly, I would have never guessed there'd be a social deduction game.
Yeah, both of those aren't really my thing.
Yeah,
so
same.
as much as I love anime, Death Note was not one of my on my radar. I can't even say if I like it or dislike it. I've never watched it, but like just visually, I was kind of like, whatever. It seems kind of edgy. I'm not like necessarily super into edgy stuff, so
Yeah.
but maybe one day. But as far as the game goes, I'd be curious to see how those two things go together and how well the game actually plays. So
Yeah. I'm actually pretty excited to try out Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. I know when this was announced, it got, not announced, when it came out, it got decent reviews. And also when I heard about it, I was like, well, I actually played the first one on PlayStation Plus, and we were both surprised that it was actually a pretty legit arcade racer. So I was kind of wanting to play it, but then I jokingly, as I always do, said that it probably will come out on PlayStation Plus. Here it is. So it'll be cool to play that and see if it's as good or better or worse than the first game. Ghostwire Tokyo, I'm not going to say too much on because I have played through that game. I bought it when it first came out. I definitely have opinions on it, so I will be revisiting it, getting my thoughts on the game again, and seeing how it plays on a controller. But I am excited to discuss it in an official capacity for the channel because I only talked about it, on Tastycast when I was playing it. So, and then I'm morbidly curious about the Death Note game because I don't understand why it exists. I don't understand why there's another social deduction game that's themed after Death Note. Hopefully there's some kind of mechanic in the game where you can like kill other people with the thing, because I think that's the whole premise of the anime. But I never watched it. Well, no, I watched a couple episodes of it, but I just couldn't get into it. But I never watched it fully. And so I have no affinity for Death Note. And I like social deduction games, but there's a lot of ones out there that are like pretty meh. And I feel like this would probably be one. Also, I think somebody in the Discord, I think Psycho said in the Discord that this came out in May. So if it came out in May and I never heard about it, it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
So
Which makes sense why it's on here, though. Give it a chance to, to get some attention.
Well, it'll get like a quick bump from PlayStation Plus, but I assume this game, unless it's great, will just die off. pretty soon after this, but we'll find out. We'll discuss it. I am really curious to see what they're even doing with this game. It's kind of confusing, but maybe it's gonna be awesome. I don't know. So, but yeah, this is a very intriguing month for PlayStation Plus for me. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's coming out soon. So
Yeah.
all right. Anything else?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what do you guys think about these games coming out. Are you excited for any of them? Are you not excited for any of them? I know over on Reddit when I discuss PlayStation Plus, I get a lot of people who go, yeah, I didn't even download the game. I don't even want to play it. So, be curious to see if there's any of these games that you're not even going to give a chance. Because obviously you're not obligated to play these games like we are. I get it. But you should try new things if you're, maybe not into that genre. It's always nice every once in a while to be surprised by that. And yeah, let us know what you're thinking about the comments below when it comes to these games. All right, let's talk about the games we did play in October again, which were WWE 2K24, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, and Dead Space. I feel like we should probably start with Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which, if you didn't get a chance to play it, is a visual novel game in which you play I can't say too much about this, and I'm going to try and avoid spoilers in this review because
it's going to be rough. Okay.
It's going to be rough. But anytime I looked up anything on this game, people were so adamant to not spoil anything that I kind of want to respect that, even though we both beat it, right? You beat it? Yeah, we both beat it. So we're actually, this is like a full-on review. But I still don't want to spoil it for people who are watching this that don't want to know. Maybe we should play it. But anyway, it is a visual novel game. You play as a dude who, through circumstances, joins a literature club that is populated by just girls. And you go day by day to this literature club, learning how to write better, right?
You participate in club activities.
Yeah, but
which is poetry in this case.
It's poetry, and so you have a couple parts where you can interact with the game, picking certain words that correspond with certain characters, and then you read their poetry, and you develop relationships with these characters, and then I'll stop there. Is there anything else I should mention?
No, I actually think literally anything past that is spoilery.
Yeah,
so.
I don't want to, and I'm just going to put it out there because everybody likes to tell everybody this, and I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but the story does change.
Yeah.
To something that
straight up when you
seems to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, when you start the game, it has a content warning. So.
Yeah, it's like if disturbing stuff bothers you.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
It does get weird. So, but yeah, overall, you're doing a lot of reading. You read a lot, and there's some interactivity. Some. Very little. We both played it. We both beat it. You played the DLCs.
Play is an interesting word.
You read the DLCs. I didn't touch those. I just played. I just interacted with the original game. And what'd you think?
Yeah. So I actually am not necessarily a fan of visual novels, but I have enjoyed a couple. And
oh, real quick, sorry. Keep a thought. There's footage playing right now of the game. It's literally at the very beginning of the game. There will be no advanced game spoilers. I just want to put that out there in case somebody's worried about being spoiled. Anyway, you've played visual novel games.
I've played a few in the past, and I do enjoy aspects of them. I have to be in the mood for it. It's not something I can play all the time. But it's the same as I'm not always in the mindset to like read a book, for example. So kind of falls very similarly into that. There is a little bit of interactivity and decision making that usually makes it a little more fun, though. Especially like we did play one in the past. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was the one where a bunch of people get trapped in like a death game type situation, and then you go through.
We played that?
Yeah, it was a PlayStation Plus game.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh no, maybe it was a Game of the Month game that got picked into.
It was.
Yeah. It was one of the nonary games or whatever.
Yep.
And that has a ton of choices and a lot of like routes and branching paths and stuff. So a lot of different things can happen. This might have that. I'm trying to stay vague, but I felt it was very, very linear experience.
Yeah.
Because I did start a second and third playthrough to kind of see if I could tweak it a little bit, and it doesn't really change a whole lot. So that was a little disappointing, to be honest, because one of the fun things about visual novels is like your decisions do have consequences usually, and I don't feel that this game has that as much as it's trying to tell a pretty centered story with some variances that can happen, mostly in like cutscenes and stuff like that. But the events of the 4 days, I'll say, pretty much stay the same. So
Yeah, though the overall overarching story progresses playing again. So you're supposed to keep playing to actually see where it goes.
right, that's kind of what I meant by the 4 days, the 4 playthroughs, I should say.
Yeah,
It takes
okay.
4 to beat it. So
Yeah.
and they don't vary that much, in my opinion. The game does handle some darker tones, which I think for some people might come off disturbing, and that, you know, I can't tell you how you feel. They were not that crazy to me.
Me neither. I was expecting something so much crazier because like everybody's like, don't spoil this. This gets really fucking crazy. And I was like, oh man. And then I'm playing, I'm like, or reading it, and I'm like, okay.
I did enjoy the third act. It was not expected, compared, especially because like I assumed we were going to do the same thing we do in Act 1 and Act 2. Act 3 is very different. And upon doing a little research after playing it myself, there are interesting things you can kind of do, especially on like the PC version. They kind of try to manipulate it a little bit in this version, but you can actually delete game files to like change the things that happen and stuff, which is kind of neat, but like
So
it's a lot of extra work.
without talking any further on that, it is interesting that on PC there are some meta things to do to progress the story, and on console, because I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck what am I supposed to do?
It just goes on.
And
otherwise, yeah.
I looked it up, and it's like, well, you're supposed to do this. And then people are like, well, on PC, it's easier to figure out than on console, where you have to back out and it has a faux UI, basically.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's weird.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I don't want to talk about it because
Yeah.
I literally can't without spoiling. I already feel like we spoiled too much, but it's that whole thing I thought was like kind of interesting, but also kind of drawn out and ridiculous. So it's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, it kind of, and I'm not saying this to offend you, it kind of gives me like the Psycho Mantis fight vibes, where like there's a weird thing you can do to like, you know, progress through or whatever. Though obviously in that case, I think it's mandatory to get through that fight. But anyways, yeah, the characters are, you know, very archetypical, which is to be expected with honestly most anime things.
They are, and they're also designed to be, because the game seems to want to observe and discuss the genre as a whole.
Yeah, well, and then also a discussion you have with a character in the third act, it makes a lot more sense why they're so archetypical.
It's very meta,
Yeah. And that kind of content is I'm sure fun for some people. For me, I'm just like, it's okay. Like, it's fine.
I was kind of rolling my eyes at it.
Yeah, well, and I wasn't in love with it myself. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't.
I didn't like hate the game, but I also I felt like I wanted a lot more from it.
I was expecting more from it because of the way people talked about this. And if you like it, this isn't even like, and I'm not saying I dislike it, but like if you love the experience or what this game had to say, that's fine. Like, but for me personally, maybe I built up too much of what I was expecting from it. But the commentary it offered me, in terms of like the genre as a whole and what people expect and stuff like that, I felt was kind of an obvious thought to be had, and it really spent a lot of time trying to explore that simple thought with me. And I was just like, okay, like, what else you got? You got anything more to say about this? It's hard. I don't want to talk about it too much.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I mean, I guess like overall, just to kind of simplify, the one interactive part that you really have any say in, outside of stuff I can't really talk about in later acts, is the poetry part, where you pick keywords and stuff like that. It's like a very, I think it's a neat idea. Don't get me wrong. That's the kind of stuff I am expecting when I play a visual novel, is like little interactive moments that have like differences that can happen as you play multiple times, because maybe like you pick keywords that make one person like you more than the other. That's the point of a lot of these games. My problem is it didn't really matter that much. So
it is mentioned, like if you are the words you pick correspond with certain characters, and so you build like a relationship with them, I guess. And so there is like a slight question asked later on, it seemed like who I was picking, because I assumed that the more I picked for one character, something special would happen, and it kind of didn't happen, but it's mentioned, so the game's at least paying attention.
It does, and I can't say too much because obviously spoilers, but
yeah,
I've played through the first act like 3 times at this point, and intentionally focus on each character.
Oh, really?
In that, and it does change a little bit of the dialogue, but the result of the act is the same. And so like that was a little disappointing to me, because like that's the part I like about visual novels, is like those choices usually spiderweb into whatever ending you end up getting. So
I don't think this game was built to be a traditional game like that, though. I think it was more so built to be a game that's supposed to subvert your expectations, but also be a commentary.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, it was fine. I didn't like hate my time with it. I just also, I just wanted a deeper experience, I think, than I got, and that's on me for having that expectation. But it was fine. It's not the best visual novel I've ever played, but it's honestly not the worst either, though. So it was okay.
Yeah. Just for transparency, I'm not really into this genre at all. We have played games like this, like that nonary game in the past, and that one was actually interesting. But there was like a lot of things to figure out, a lot of puzzles, a lot of choices to be made.
You played,
and so like I actually felt like I was interacting. It kind of like validated the whole I'm sitting here at my computer reading a lot, but there's also things I'm having impact on. So I'm actually interacting. It makes sense why the software exists, why I'm interacting with it at all, not just reading a fucking book. And obviously visual novel. I'm sure some people will just like some visuals or something they read because they like to read a lot. That's fine. There's no, good or bad with this if you like whatever, but it's not for me. This game was not for me. I played through it just because I heard there was a short game and everyone talked about how fucking crazy it gets. So I was like, okay, well, I can't, read this for an hour and then just not experience what everybody's talking about, because how can I review it if I didn't get to the thing that everybody talks about? So played through it to get the full experience. And honestly, it was interesting for me to experience a game like this, a visual novel, because I don't play games like this. But it just solidified for me that this is not a genre I'm into. Except for if it had more interactivity, maybe it would change. But this game specifically, I'm happy to be able to talk about the experience, having had the full experience. But I honestly kind of felt like I wasted my time with this game. I don't think the end finale was anything that really blew my mind. It did drag some parts. I don't think before the big surprise starts happening, the dialogue was interesting. It was just like typical anime shit where people are like, I made cookies or something. Do you want to try them? And then you eat them and they're like, oh, are they good? And you're like, whoa, these are great. And they're like, oh, really? I'm just like, okay, what am I doing here? Like, I could just go watch some anime. That'd be more interesting than reading this. So yeah, the art is okay. It kind of reminds me of like fan art of an anime. if you're into the art style, at least you can. I'm sure this isn't all visual novel games. I don't know, but you can like get rid of the dialogue and just look at the pictures. So
that's common.
That's got to be common.
Yeah, because I play Nikkei, which has a lot of visual novel stuff, and it has a hide button, so you can
which is great because if you appreciate like the art, it's nice. Or if it's got fan service, whatever your thing is, it's nice to be able to look at that. That they put time into that. There's an artist behind it. It's nice that you can even appreciate it. I like it even in games like Naughty Dog games where you can look at the 3D models because they're so good looking. It's nice to get up close and be like, whoa, this is crazy. So it's neat. The dialogue was not interesting to me at all. It was a lot of reading, which is fine, but none of the characters really were that interesting to me. I don't think the character you're playing is that interesting. It would have been nice to have a little more impact on his personality. I was just reading from the perspective of some dude. I was just like, this guy's
he's mostly supposed to be you.
Yeah, but it's just like, but it's not.
Yeah.
So, and you don't have a lot of choices. So he just says a bunch of dorky shit. I'm just like, okay. But it makes sense once you get to the end. You figure out what's actually going on here. And then the big finale and the warm up to it. I'll put it that way. The warm up is interesting. I'm like, okay, something's happening here. I don't know quite. That was interesting enough, but then once you get to the end, I was like, I know what you're doing. Okay, I get it. And then it goes on for a long time. The way to resolve the end was also interesting enough, but I also was weird. I had to Google it, so I'm sure there's some mega geniuses that didn't have to, but I did. I was like, what am I doing? Like, why is this happening? Again, trying to be vague here, but I don't regret experiencing the game, but I would never play this again or read this again. And it actually kind of made me not want to play games like this.
That's too bad because there are some.
I'm sure there's great ones.
You played
that
that
nonary game was like actually interesting.
And that's a whole series.
And I remember when we played that, I was like, I don't like these kind of games, but I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, shit's happening. This is interesting. There's things I'm actually figuring out. I got to click on the bed and there's a thing here. Where does this go? Oh, there's a thing over here. But this is just like I was sitting there reading forever, just like
there's a huge lack of
your literature
stimulation happening with this one.
Yeah, I was like, the first time I attempted to play this, I started getting tired. I went to bed. I was like, well, you did me, because personal thing, I don't sleep well. It's hard for me to fall asleep. It's hard for me to stay asleep. So when I'm up late and I start getting tired, especially from a game, I'm like, thank you. And I go lay down. I'm like, I might be able to fall asleep. So this game did me a favor. I'll give it that. But then the second time I was like, I'm going to give this like a legit try. And I did. I think, I fucking finished it multiple times. And I don't regret the experience. I'm glad I can talk about it in full if somebody want to have like a spoiler talk about it. But I think it was wasted on me. I didn't hate it, but I got nothing for it. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. It's just like, okay, I get it, and I'm moving on with my life. So, it was fine.
Yeah,
it was a fun experience. So, let's jump into recommendations.
Okay.
I think the obvious one is if you're into, I guess, anime and visual novels, but I don't have experience with these, so maybe you can support me on this. There's probably better ones out there, but if you've played them all, maybe play this one.
Yeah. I would say if you are into...
If you like dark, weird, bizarre shit too.
Stuff, yeah. Because it's definitely attempting to be disturbing. Mm-hmm. And maybe for certain people it will be. Maybe I'm just too desensitized to that kind of stuff, but it was just like... Especially the first incident, I'll just say, was so expected. So I kind of just knew it was happening before it happened. So, and that's not because like, big brain or anything. It was just like basically telling me it was about to happen. So but anyways, I don't know that you can add a lot more to this. I guess one thing I would say outside of the weird stuff you have to do in like Act 3 and Act 4, the first two acts are, I would say, a good introduction to the type of game because the amount of interactiveness is very minimal, and so there's less to figure out. I know when we play like the non games, for example, there's a lot of puzzle solving and a lot of like exploring you have to do to progress the story.
And like characters who are like proposed as like mysteries, like I don't know if I can trust you, or and you're like, yeah, there's
and better written as like characters.
It's
right?
it's intriguing. There's intrigue to it. It took the warm up to the finale where I'm like, okay, something's finally happening here, but I wasn't like, oh shit, what's this? What's this?
Yeah. I don't. It's definitely not for everybody though.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It's
I would
not
argue
for-
a lot of people.
A lot of
would have
people aren't
hard
going to be into
time with
this. Yeah.
But that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, it's a very specific game. You're either individual novels and you've played them all and you want to play this, or you're into, and you're maybe still into the novel thing, but you want to play something that's kind of weird and bizarre.
Yeah.
You might be into this. Maybe you're into Junji Ito. Yeah. Let's jump into grades. I will grade it first. I'm on a personal level mostly because the game's fine, but there's not anything going on with it for me. And gameplay wise, the story's like whatever for me personally. I'm gonna give it a C minus.
Okay.
I would give it a C just passing because like there's nothing wrong with it, but like I literally like felt bored sometimes playing it. I'm like, let's get to what we're getting to because obviously this isn't going to go on forever. And so if I have to think about, if I'm like if I'm watching a movie, I'm checking my watch to see like how long has this been. Same thing with this. If I'm playing a game and I'm like bro, dude, how much fucking time have I put into this?
Yeah.
I got to dock at some points, but that's a personal thing. It's not the game's fault necessarily. It's just not meant for me, I guess. So yeah, C minus.
Yeah, I'm going to be very close to you. Actually, I'm going to give it a C plus.
Okay.
I do think it is just lacking in the gameplay department too much, and which is weird to say about.
I think that would have made a huge difference,
right? But the example we've brought up multiple times has like a lot more to do in it, and is a longer experience. And I was not even thinking about it playing that game. So, this game you are just reading, and they're the most tropey characters ever.
Yeah.
And so like,
it's not
there's
like
no surprises happening.
Yep.
Unless you're new to this kind of stuff, then maybe it is. But you're getting a lesson in tropes at this point.
Yeah,
but,
maybe you've never ever heard of anime.
Yeah.
You like came out of
Or
a bomb
experienced it,
shelter and never seen anime, never heard of a visual novel. This would probably blow your mind.
But I do think there's stuff they did, even though you have to look it up to figure it out in Act 3 and Act 4 that were fun. But that was the only time. So yeah, it's hard to like express my opinion because I would have to spoil the third act, and that's just not going to happen. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think C plus is about as high as I could go. I also don't think I would play it again, and if there was a sequel, it would have to do a lot more. So
yeah, hopefully this person would just make like their own, like a whole other visual novel game that wasn't a sequel, but like another weird story. If they have a
with just more interactivity to it.
Yeah,
like, that's really honestly I think the biggest miss. I can deal with tropes. Like you can have like cookie cutter characters as long as like I'm having a good time. So.
Just give me something to do.
Yeah.
And if you can't give me something to do, I need a better story.
Something has to carry you through it. And I
Yeah.
just don't think anything for me was carrying me through this other than I knew it was a 4.5 hour game. And so I was just going to knock it out real quick.
Especially the cliche stuff it offers you in the beginning, only to want to have a commentary on that with you later. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What are we doing? But whatever. If you guys want a spoiler talk for this, though, we could always do that. Just let us know in the comments.
I would also say, if you do these kind of games, visual novel games specifically, and you have recommendations, at least myself, I'm curious.
No, recommend me too, for sure. Is there like, what's the good ones?
Because I've been eyeballing, just for the sake of anyone actually paying attention to this part, I've watched Steins Gate and the Fate animes. I've thought about going and actually playing the visual novels. I don't know if it's worth doing it or not. If you played them, let me know. And if you have suggestions, obviously, I would love to hear that. So,
yeah. And with that, let us know in the comments what you guys think about Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. Please don't spoil it, since we tried to go out of our way to do that. If you do, put a spoiler warning on your comment. I would like to discuss this fully, especially if you don't agree with my or our thoughts on it. No disrespect meant, with my thoughts on it. But if you liked it, didn't like it, let us know in the comments. And what'd you like about it? And what'd you think about the ending? And put a spoiler warning if you talk about it, please. All right, let's move on to the next game, which was WWE 2K24. If you didn't get a chance to play WWE 2K24, it's a wrestling game. I looked this one up because I was curious about what wrestling games have been up to, and apparently this is according to other people, the good wrestling game, because before they were shotgunning these games out every year, and this is the one they took 2 years to make.
Okay.
And so people are praising it and actually having so many small new features that makes the whole thing better. That's not my opinion. That's what people are saying.
And I'm going to be ignorant on that.
Yeah. So I did my research on it because I'm always curious about that kind of thing. So yeah, anyway, it's a wrestling game. It's the one that took longer to make than the other ones before it. It offers a bunch of wrestlers, new and old. Ones I recognize from when I was younger. New ones, I have no idea who the fuck these people are. And you do wrestling stuff. You wrestle in a ring. There are different modes. There's a coffin mode where you can put people in a coffin. I forgot what that mode's. Maybe it's just called coffin match. I don't know. You can do all the typical match types you would expect from a wrestling game. There is a robust character creator. Also a robust intro creator for your characters that you make. I didn't touch that because in the past I have made my own intros for characters that I spent a lot of time on, and I knew I would be there for fucking days. So I just skipped over that. But I did make a character. We'll talk about that. And yeah, there is a career mode. There is just, and sports games can learn from this, a play button right in the fucking center of the UI. As soon as you start the game, you can just hit play, pick a match type, and just get the hell in. Thank you. There's also a factions mode. I went to play that a little bit, but I was like, there's a lot going on here. Maybe I'll return to that later, so I didn't play that. And what else? Career mode. You can play a bunch of different match types. Royal Rumble, stuff like that. I always like playing that in wrestling games. And yeah, it has some interesting systems for wrestling games. I haven't played one in a long time, so I'm kind of out of my element on what's standard nowadays. But you can do all your punching and kicking and running and bouncing off the ropes, do your special moves, pin people. It has some interesting mechanics to get unpinned that I haven't seen, so I haven't played a wrestling game in a long time, where you flick the stick up, and the more you get your ass kicked, where the bar is moving back and forth, you got to flick up, gets smaller and smaller, kind of making it, still a skill thing where, like, oh, if you're just really good, you might still be able to get up, but if you miss it, you don't get up, you get pinned. And then it has a counter system, which I thought was really interesting. Almost every single move that can be done to you in a quick timing has a triangle, and you can hit that if you time it correctly, and you can like dodge attacks, which I thought was kind of crazy because I wasn't expecting that. Again, I'm out of the loop on these games, but kind of gives some more interactivity to just getting your ass kicked, which is welcome. And yeah, we both played it. I'll start first with my.
I say just continue. You were already going.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the whole thing. So yeah, I haven't played a wrestling game in a long time. Me and Josh used to play them quite a bit, so I'm kind of familiar with the genre. And this one kind of felt like those old ones I really liked. So that was cool. The graphics are much better, though. I was actually impressed with the animations of the characters, the character models. Some of the faces look kind of weird. But overall, I thought it was really good. The arenas look good. The audience, all being like 3D models moving. I don't know if that's always been standard or it's been standard for a long time, but I appreciated that it actually looked like people were in the audience.
Instead of a bunch of paper stands wiggling.
Or like 3D ones in the front and like low render ones in the back. It seemed like they're all just there. So nowadays it seems like you'd be able to do that with games that have a shitload of enemies on screen at once. Why couldn't you do that with just people sitting in a crowd? The things I mostly did was I spent 2 hours on a character that I'd created. I made a couple characters, but one of them took me a while. After that, I kind of got the gist of things. You probably see him in the footage. I don't know if he's up yet or not. It was a Royal Rumble that I got the footage from. But his name was King Baby. He is a very distinct, angelic-looking King Baby. He's the king of babies. And when you make your character, you can name them whatever, but then it also has stuff that the announcers will call them. And so they called him Baby, which is perfect. Yeah, so made him. The character creator's pretty robust. Making your character physically is pretty detailed. It's definitely not bad. Not super deep, but it's good for sure. I sat there and put a lot of work into the face that you probably wouldn't even notice because I put facial hair on him. Speaking of facial hair, you can put like layers of facial hair, which I thought was like kind of crazy because you can really create all sorts of crazy facial hair. You can put it on like a mustache, and then on the next layer you can put like stubble down, and on the next layer you can put like sideburns on, or like a full beard, or if you already have a full beard you can put another beard as a layer underneath that to have more beard. You can change the color on all of those things. You could get fucking crazy with this. The thing that's kind of wild though is the amount of different things you can wear and unlock to wear that are basically blank templates that you can change the material, the visual style of, the colors. You can make them glow.
If you ever make another Soul Calibur, you could take some notes.
Yeah, because Soul Calibur, like 3 Soul Caliburs ago, had crazy character customization, and they just had the same one over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, do something new. The character creator is good. You could, if you like, were playing this game because you wanted to play it, you bought it or whatever, you're not just playing it as your obligation for the channel, you could put some time into just making wrestlers. You can take other people's moves, their intros, you can make your own. You can really get into it. And then you can import that character into the career mode, which I appreciate as well, because when I started career mode, it was like, do you want to just import a character or make a new one? I was like, well, I already fucking made one, so let's just import him. And that was nice. Career mode is probably my biggest complaint of the game. It's not bad. I just thought the cutscenes with your character interacting with other wrestlers, which is probably cool for people who are still watching wrestling to interact with people and actually get to pick dialogue or whatever, but I fucking hate, and the voice actor's probably fine, whatever, he's doing whatever somewhere, but in this game, his dialogue is so bad. I was just listening to it, and it's wrestling, so of course it's gonna be corny, but like it was like really cheesy, everything my guy was saying. But it was also funny because my dude's King Baby, and he's talking like this bro, and I'm like, this is just kind of funny for me anyway, so it's fine. But like a good career mode should, it has like things to interact with, stats that you can change as you play through it, which is always good, especially if you're just gonna sit there and wrestle in a career and not just play the arcade mode. It's nice that you're working towards something. I appreciated that. So I played career mode for a little bit. I enjoyed myself. I feel like if I didn't have so many fucking games to play, I could probably keep playing this game. Because there's like plenty of stuff to do. Like when we're playing, what was the last wrestling game we played? It wasn't ECW. It was one of those other brands.
One with Sting on it.
Yeah, that game kind of worried me. I'm like, is this where wrestling games are at? Because this feels less than what I used to play back in the day. And then playing this, I was like, oh no, this is just like the good one. This is the premium one that I was hoping for. Because that game had a career mode too, and it was like minimal. But not to talk about that game too much. But it just made me appreciate that this game should be the standard. There's a lot of content here. So yeah, career mode was cool. I enjoyed that. I played a lot of free play arcade matches, trying out all the matches. Like I said, I always like to gravitate towards Royal Rumble just because I like the idea of like, it's cool too because like you can pick when you get thrown in, so you can start from the beginning and fight all the way through. But I put on random because I wanted the experience of like, I don't know if I'm going to be like the first guy in the match or like the 25th one. And so, yeah, I liked even like watching the NPCs fight each other before I ran in. I think I was like number 14 or something. I don't remember, but it's just fun to kind of find out, who makes it to the end. Yeah, I like the combat system. I thought it was much better than that other wrestling game we played. It had more to offer in terms of how you can fight people, but the controls were better and way more like simple to understand. Like you can tell this game is a much more refined game because everything just made sense. One of the big hesitations I had this month on hopping into this game, outside of making a character, was I got to be in the mood to learn all the buttons and how to wrestle and stuff like that. It happened quick. I started playing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty simple. This is like straight up makes a lot of sense. Also, it's been so long since I've played a wrestling game that I appreciate the mobility in the game. When you run, you could run like, I remember in older wrestling games, like if you like ran, you would just run across or run back and forth basically, and you'd hit the ropes and you'd bounce, and you just like in this, if you start running and then you hold like down right or whatever, you actually curve and run at people. Like you have more freedom of movement. It felt better, which I really appreciated. One complaint that drove me nuts. This happened quite a bit, and I'm sure after you play the game enough, you just get used to it and you don't do it. But when people are in animations, they can't be interacted with, and that kind of pissed me off. I wish you could interrupt people because there's multiple times in the career mode. The first fight you fight is oh man, what's his name? Dominic Guerrero. I think it's Eddie Guerrero's kid or something like that.
Okay,
that's old school shit. But he's like a more like acrobatic wrestler, so he does a lot of moves where he like jumps on the ropes and does a backflip and lands on you. There's multiple times where we were fighting, I'm like punching him and slapping him in the chest and shit, and he would just turn around and jump on the ropes, and I'd swing at him and go to hit him, and you couldn't touch him. So he's in his animation, and then he's flipping, and then he would just land on me, and I'm like, it's not a fighting game. I know obviously in real life wrestling is like all staged, so you know what you're going to do. In real life, I would just go, oh, he's doing his backflip, I'm going to expect him to land on me. But like as a game, as a pseudo fighting game, I'm like trying to punch him before he can even do that, and he's already in his animation, so it's like it didn't feel good. I wish you could hit him before he did that, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I like the little mini game systems. They're all very simple. I kind of brought it up when I was describing the game, but when you're getting pinned, I believe the game said you could just mash the button too to get up or something like that. But there's like a mini game where like at first if you get pinned and you've barely lost any stamina, you have this huge bar going back and forth, and you just got to flick up in that bar to be able to get up. And then as you lose stamina, you start getting your ass kicked more and more. It gets smaller, so it gets harder to get back up. But there's a couple matches where I was getting my ass fucking kicked. This guy was just wrecking me. He went to pin me, and there's this little small bar going back and forth, and I flicked up, and I actually got up out of the pin. And I was like, that was actually kind of cool. That felt like I actually did something and not just, had to hope he didn't pin me and win. And then I ended up getting up and beating him. And I was like, that actually kind of felt like, an underdog thing where like,
comeback,
I was going to lose, and I actually ended up winning. So that was actually really cool. I also like the triangle thing. It's hard to get the timing down, but it's cool. There's like a counter, and when I did nail it, it felt good. So like someone was getting me set up for a move, and there's this whole animation where they'll grab you and they're getting you ready, and then they go to turn around, they come to run back, and for a split second you hit triangle, and when you nail it, all of a sudden your guy like jumps out of the way and the guy misses you. And it feels like those moments in wrestling where like you are expecting the guy to do the big finisher, and then he does something to counter it, and the crowd goes, whoa, shit, that's crazy.
Well, like the rope, like you throw them against the ropes, then you clothesline them, but then like sometimes they'll duck, hit the rope again, and then they clothesline you instead. Type of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that gameplay element, the mechanic, gives you those moments organically. It's kind of smart. It's super simple, makes sense. And then also, I don't know how many times you get them. I think you lose them, and I think they slowly recharge. I don't remember. There's an instant revive button that I thought was kind of interesting too, which also gives you those wrestling moments where you think someone's down and out, and then you hit that button and they get back up really quick. And you have a limited amount of those. I don't remember. I think they recharge. I don't remember. But that was kind of cool because there's other moments where someone's kicking my ass, and I'm like, dude, my guy's just not getting up. And it's like, hit R1. I'm like, okay, and I hit it, and he gets back up, and I'm like, oh, cool. Gives you that kind of like second wind feel. So there's a lot of cool little elements that almost feel like borrowed from fighting games, where there'll be like a break or something when someone's doing a combo on you. that kind of reminds me of like fighting games. So it's got some cool mechanics that aren't just like let's just punch each other until somebody wins. So I kind of liked that. What else is there? There's a huge roster of characters. I'm not familiar with a lot of wrestling right now, so a lot of the people I don't know who they are. I've seen a couple like Roman Reigns. I've seen him before. I don't know anything about him. That blonde guy's all over the cover. I see him on TikTok all the time. He seems like a cool dude. I don't know anything about him as a wrestler though. And yeah, overall, I liked the game. I thought it was pretty good. This is like literally what I want from a wrestling game. When we play the other wrestling game, I was like, I want that, and this is that. And apparently, if this is well received after the 2-year development cycle that people wanted or whatever, hopefully it is well received. But I think it's solid. Hopefully this is the good version because I liked it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about gameplay stuff too much because you kind of went through it all already. But
Do you have any opinions on it?
I think it played fine.
Yeah.
You know, so my biggest thing I can really do is the last time I played a wrestling game was the other one. I can't remember the name of either.
What was it?
But so it's hard for me not to compare to it. And the big things I noticed was that, you know, it just played smoother overall. And I think the biggest thing is like the collision. I remember specifically complaining about the collision in the previous game. It felt like bullshit all the time.
AEW Fight Forever.
Yeah. That one, there were so many moments where like my moves felt like I got cheated out of them because of the collision system in that game. Versus like I didn't really feel that in this one, which was really nice to see. And similarly, I did spend a lot of time with the character creator, and I made 2 characters. I spent way too much time in, including making all their intros and all the colors and everything. Like I could have done that all day, which is a good thing. I love character creators.
Yeah, it's got a robust one,
and it has a good one. And honestly, there's things in it that still have room to grow if they really wanted to. So, not that they have to. It has more of a character creator in most games. So, so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. That was something I tried to do in the one before, and it had that stuff. It was just limited. And I'm not, trying to compare too much. I'm just, those are my experiences with wrestling in the last, 10 years. So, so it was a nice surprise because my expectations were super low having come from the last game, which was, it was fine, but it's just so bare bones that it wasn't an enjoyable experience for me versus this one was robust, which is what I needed. It had a lot of character stuff. It had a lot of game modes. It had, like you said, a lot of different ways to interact with the game itself when you're playing it. And for people, I would say like me, but I feel like a lot of people do this. It has just CPU versus CPU, so you can set up matches and basically watch wrestling on TV. I did that even when we play sports games. A lot of times I'll do just a CPU versus CPU thing to see how it plays out and see how well basically the CPU handles it. Which was fun because I threw my created characters in. My first guy, apparently the CPU can't play him at all and just lost constantly. But my second character, the girl I made, would win half the matches basically that they were in. So, and yeah, I mean overall, it was a much more positive experience for me to play this game. It was a very simple to use UI, which I appreciate. Similarly,
yeah, that's so huge.
About that before,
that's something we've talked about multiple times when it comes to sports games. And even though this isn't baseball, basketball, football,
it's still sports.
It's still like a sports game, and it's like a game that comes out yearly. Except for this one, obviously had the extra year on it, which obviously was good. But just for these games that have dedicated fan bases that you're just expecting they're gonna know where everything's at, so many of these sports games fail on their UIs for new players. I know they're not expecting us, but here we are, and I'll be like, I don't know where anything's at. What am I doing? What is this mode? I gotta start playing it. It's gonna this was just right in the middle. Hey, you want to play some matches? Here they are. Yeah. Here's the career mode. Here's this faction mode or whatever, which I assume is just teams or something like that. It was just straight up. Really appreciated that.
Yeah. I think my only complaint, unless I just failed, and feel free to educate me, I couldn't get my 2 created characters to CPU versus CPU. It only would let me select 1. So I don't know if I was doing something wrong, but they would literally gray out after I picked one. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is a bummer because I kind of had made 2 for the intent to make them beat each other up, but it is what it is. But overall, much better experience with this one than the last experience I had. And I would actually say a positive experience. So
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend it to people who like wrestling. If you like wrestling, you probably play this game. People who like fighting games, I think you'll like this. Just because it is a fighting game, but it's obviously set up into the wrestling.
And more in the brawler space, but for sure.
Yeah. But it has like some mechanics and stuff that feel a little more fighting-esque. So if you are into 3D fighters, I guess. But even if you're into fighting games in general, you like fighting against people with mechanics, I would give it a shot. If you like character customization, I would definitely recommend this to you.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one for me too.
If you like games you could probably spend a lot of hours in, I feel like you could put a lot of time into this game. Just making characters, wrestling, progressing through the career mode. It has online stuff I didn't touch. I'm sure if you're like dedicated to this game, though, you're probably in the community and playing against people online, stuff like that. Hopefully, I should maybe give that a shot sometime just to be able to talk about it. But I'm so boomer-minded when it comes to playing fighting games online and racing games online, because I remember the old days where like lag would fuck me over, and I would just like be like, "This isn't even fair. Why would I?" Like I'm too competitive, so I'm like, "This isn't even fair. I don't even want to play this." If there's going to be lag and stuff, but I know a lot of technologies have come out since then to make that a better experience. With wrestling games, I always just played locally anyway against friends and stuff. So, which we should have tried, like co-op matches or something.
Well, I wasn't here.
Oh yeah, correct, correct. You were gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about who I would recommend it to.
I have 0 additions to that.
Yeah.
So
if you hate wrestling, I would still maybe tell you to try it out. I think you still have fun.
I don't even like wrestling. I couldn't imagine hating it. So.
Yeah. I think it's a fun time. I think a lot of people could have fun with this. I just don't think specifically what it is will attract a lot of people. So
yeah,
unless you are into those things. Let's jump into grades. What would you grade it?
I feel comfortable with a strong B+.
Okay.
I did have, a couple little hiccups, and the one specifically was, and maybe again it's my ignorance, but that was the experience I had, was not being able to have my 2 created characters fight each other. I think that's a little bit of a bummer. I don't know why you would be restricted like at all. So I'm curious on that, but other than that, I thought it was a good, solid game. I can definitely see if you are into it, playing the game for a long time. So
yeah. I'm teeter-tottering between 2 pretty extreme grades. I'm going to give it a really
F.
I'm teeter-tottering between D- and an F. Should I pass it or fail it? No, I'm going to give it a really, really, really strong A-. I wanted to give it an A, but it seems like a lot. So I'm going to go with the A-, just because there's almost nothing wrong with it. It offers a lot. It's a lot of fun. I think the mechanics are smart and work. I didn't feel like anything felt, and I haven't been playing the games recently, so I don't know if anything's like recycled and like, this is the same shit over and over again. So I didn't have that experience. What I did experience was a solid wrestling game that had everything I was hoping for in it and more. I think I'm going with A-, and again, strong A-. It's almost an A. I want to give it an A, but like sometimes in combat, it felt like, it wasn't responding in a way that I wanted it to. And that might sound like almost selfish, like, I'm not winning. It's not that. It's just like that's that situation with the dude doing the backflip. It just like canceled out my attack because it's now proceeding with doing that. And now I'm just going to get hit with it. And that felt kind of weird. It would be nice to be able to interrupt. I know you'd have to program animations of him like stumbling on the ropes when I punch him. I get that. It's just, in a gameplay way, when I'm enjoying myself and that happens, I'm like, that's kind of cheap feeling. So yeah, other than that though, super solid wrestling game, exactly what I wanted and more. So A-, really strong A-, really good. I liked it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh,
All right, let's know in the comments what you guys think about WWE 2K24. Is this? Did you play? Did you not play it? And if you did play it, is this the good wrestling game? Have you been playing them regularly? Is this like is it back, baby, or is this more of the same shit? What do you like about this wrestling game? Maybe some things you don't like about this game. And what's your favorite types of matches? Who's your favorite wrestlers? I would join in with that, but I don't watch wrestling anymore, so I don't know. Yeah, what's some features that you really like? Maybe there's some features you'd like to see in a future wrestling game. And is there better wrestling games out there? I highly doubt it. I feel like this is pretty much the pinnacle of where wrestling games are at. Let us know what you think about in the comments below when it comes to WWE 2K24. Last game we played in October, I played, was Dead Space, the remake of the original Dead Space game. And yeah, it's a third-person survival horror game that's sci-fi. You play as a dude with a plasma cutter, and you shoot through necromorphs, which are mutilated human bodies that are now killing machines, and you are stranded on the USG Ishimura trying to basically find somebody and escape. It features crazy gore, dismemberment mechanics when it comes to killing necromorphs, terrifying scenarios that are obviously designed to scare the shit out of you, and pretty good audio design. We both interacted with this game. You watched it, I played it. I played it myself while you're gone, and then I played it for you. And yeah, let's jump into your thoughts on Dead Space.
okay. Well, for people who are wondering why I didn't play it, I don't play horror games. I can't, just get too anxious about it, and then I can't progress in them. So it's easier for me to watch Seth play them because he thrives on them.
Playing horror games. I love horror games.
And I actually do enjoy watching them. So.
Yeah, it's surprising that you'll sit there and engage and talk about it while I'm playing it. It's not like you're opposed to horror. You just don't want to be responsible for the character. You don't want to be playing through it. You'd rather,
Yeah, I just get too in my head about it. So
yeah, it's similar to when we used to play, a long time ago, play Black Ops and Search and Destroy. You would be playing, but if you're the last guy alive, you'd be like, fuck, I don't want to be responsible for the team. And you'd kind of not freeze up, but you'd be like, eh. So yeah, you don't want that responsibility.
Yeah. So yeah, my impressions of what I watched was first off, the game's good looking. Watching it on the PS5, I don't know if it looks better on PC or not, but
it does. But I think it's a pretty good. It doesn't look like a huge downgrade.
Yeah, I would say it didn't look bad at all. So it was a good looking game. The visual style of it is definitely unique, though it does have some of the stuff you expect from this type of game where, and obviously it's because of the genre, but spaceships are all just metal everything, and the color scaling is pretty simple.
It's an oppressive atmosphere. I was jokingly saying when I was playing it that even if what was happening on the ship wasn't happening, the ship would be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just a scary looking ship internally.
And I think there's just kind of the nature, the cold colors that come along with, metal and everything having to be made of it. You're not making wood things in space.
And example. Bronze colors and rusty colors, so it looks disturbing almost. They did a good job at designing a horror atmosphere, but that world is not a world I would want to live in.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to kind of put out there is the game does a good job of introducing story elements and stuff like that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because very shortly into Seth playing this game, and to some extent I had watched him play a little bit in the past, but I immediately had questions to ask about things happening because I knew I was never going to go through the whole game, and also things that were happening were intriguing enough that I had curiosities, and I was looking for answers to those curiosities. Obviously, I can't think of any off the top of my head, unfortunately, but I do know one of the things that got brought up. Try not to get too spoilery, but the Object.
For the record, Dead Space has been out for a long time, but the story is so good that you should learn it organically. Yeah. But the marker.
Yeah. And like how it functions and like why the things were happening, stuff like that. So I had a lot of questions on that, which is good, because obviously, like, if the beginning of the game can make me curious like that, it's doing a good job in storytelling, because I'm invested at that point if I'm asking questions. The characters were fine. I'm not like in love with them, but they weren't bad. They were just like they're suitable for what you were going through.
A lot of them at that part in the game are cannon fodder too. So
yeah, for sure. The weapons, I feel like from a visual standpoint, obviously I'm not the one playing it, but from a visual standpoint, we're kind of like boring looking. However, the impact from the weapons looked satisfying.
Yep.
Which is important.
Yeah, they feel real good to shoot.
The enemies react very well to where they're being shot. They're also terrifyingly aggressive, which is a good thing when you're trying to make a scary game. I would say watching you fend off not even just one, but sometimes two, three, four enemies coming at you. It's kind of scary because they just rush you. And
it definitely takes a note from Resident Evil 4's playbook in terms of shooting enemies, impacts, where you shoot them. They're both
keeping the pressure on you too.
But also, the horror of having multiple enemies attacking at once, which was extra terrifying on PS5 because I played this originally on PC, and there was a lot of attacks and being attacked that I'd never witnessed before on PC because I was able to aim so quickly.
Flick faster,
whereas like on PS5 I wasn't able to look as fast and aim as fast, and so I was actually getting hit way more than I ever got hit on PC. And that was it was terrifying because I was like, oh shit, I actually have to heal and I actually have to try not to get hit because I can't shoot these people fast enough.
Yeah, and then also due to the dark nature of the spaceship you're in, sometimes you'd lose track of things if you went around a corner too fast, something like that, because the lighting's just bad. And so you like peek back around, especially like a lot of the small stuff that could crawl on walls and ceilings and stuff would just like disappear for a little bit, and then you're like, where the hell to go? Which is also unnerving, I'm sure, playing when you have a threat that has disappeared. It's kind of like when a spider's in your room and then you look and they're gone.
Yep.
So
yep, it's the exact same thing. Shout out to the Silent Hill 2 remake as well, because it has a lot of stuff like that as well.
Let's see. The set pieces are also very well done. Specifically, without spoiling too much, there's a part where you return to your ship and an event happens, and it is a cool little set piece that happens, and it changes the way the map looks and stuff like that. So,
and the whole game's full of stuff like that. Yeah. Things that surprise you. We're like, whoa, this is fucking crazy. What's happening here? Like, it's not just like walking around dialogue. There's like actually like they put work into the game.
Yeah, and then the big one for me when it comes to this kind of stuff is that they spent a lot of time crafting a world and lore. So there was like this mystery to solve as you are playing it, and so like you're like mentally stimulated outside of just like fight or flight. You're actually like trying to figure out what happened, where it came from, how it started, where it's going, stuff like that. So I enjoyed that part of it a lot. I do think they could probably pretty easily make a show out of it, and I would probably enjoy it.
It would translate so easily to a movie or a show.
Yeah. Or just do what Netflix does and you make everything into an anime now.
Yeah. Well, when the game first came out, they did make 2 animated movies, 2 or 3. And so, they really invested in Dead Space when it first came out. It's kind of amazing how dead it is now.
Yeah, well, that's
there's
company, right?
6 books, bunch of comics, like there's all sorts of shit.
Well, it definitely was set up to do that because like whoever was in charge of storyboarding and like the idea of what the game was going to be had a lot of thoughts for sure. So overall I thought it was a cool experience to watch and stuff. I definitely would not have been able to play it watching how things can just pop out of walls or ceilings and then also be behind you while you're dealing with something. Yep. I would have not enjoyed myself, but it was cool to watch, and I can tell for sure that they put a lot of work into the game, especially because this is a remake of that game too, and they seemingly were very respectful of that. So
Yeah, and it sucks because Motive did such a good job on this remake, and then EA was like, "Yeah, you guys did good, but let's put you on the next Battlefield."
yeah,
So it's just like, man,
EA's allergic to single player. So
yep, would have been so fucking cool to get a sequel remake. Anything else?
no,
I love this game. I played it on PC when it came out, and a little bit of a history with me. When Dead Space first came out, I wasn't into it. I thought it was like kind of lame, which I was so wrong, which is fine for me to be able to admit. And so it's funny, when this remake came out, I played it on PC, and I was like, holy fuck, this is good. Like, this is really good. And so with all that, just knowing I'm a huge fan of this game, and now I'm just like a junkie when it comes to the lore. Playing it on PS5, I was looking forward to it because I already know I fucking love this game. So I was kind of curious to see how it'd play on PS5, and I'm happy to say that it plays really good. The only complaint I have is just I don't play shooters on PS5 as much as I used to, so my aiming ability was not as warmed up as it could have been, and it made certain scenarios harder than they were on PC. Because on PC, I was just like blasting people before they ever got near me. Obviously much easier to aim with a mouse and keyboard, but outside of that, that's not a fault to the game. That's just me not playing on PS5 controller as much as I used to, so I needed to warm up. But the controls are good. They make sense. Very simple. Felt tight, which is good. The graphics look great. I think it looked like great on PS5. So, didn't lose a lot of visual fidelity moving over to console. And so when I played it by myself, I played until about chapter 3 or 4. Like I said before on PC, I've already beaten this like twice, like 2.5 times. So I've played through the campaign. But I actually had to stop myself playing the first time because I kept playing. I'm like, if I'm going to keep playing this, I'm going to go play it on PC and continue, my actual my gameplay or my save on PC. But I wanted to keep playing because I'm like so into first off the gameplay of Dead Space. Like I said, takes a note from Resident Evil 4, and it not only is a scary game, which you're going to play a horror game to be scared, that's the fun part of it, and to survive it, but the gameplay is also fun too. That's something Resident Evil 4 does like so fucking well in the remake. Also fantastic. We're getting so many good remakes lately when it comes to horror games. Silent Hill 2, fucking fantastic. But not only is it a terrifying experience with a cool fucking story and awesome visuals, but like the gameplay feels awesome. Like shooting necromorphs' legs off and arms off feels satisfying. Now this game gives you a lot of ammo on normal. I was surprised because coming off of Silent Hill 2 remake. And I had plenty of ammo on that too. I wasn't really using it a lot. I was hitting people with pipes and shit. But it denies you ammo quite a bit compared to Dead Space. Dead Space gives you a lot of ammo, and that's fine because necromorphs are scary and I want to kill the shit out of them. So give me ammo, and I'm going to blast them. A lot of different types of enemies too that all have their own dismemberment mechanics, different things to take off of them, which is, it's fun. It's not just shoot the enemy till it drops. It's like there's like a shooting gallery feeling to it. Like you got to aim for specific things, and it feels good when you do it because they got physics. And then later you get oh god, what's it called? Kinesis, where you can like grab things in the air and shoot it through people, and you can nail them to walls, which is a mechanic I love. That never gets old in games, is when you can nail things to walls. So not only is the game experience this guttural, oppressive, visceral, dark, intriguing experience, but also just shooting shit feels cool. And it's got a good variety of weapons. And then another thing that makes this game so fucking good is you can upgrade your armor, and it changes the visual style of it. It just gets progressively more and more, robust. But also there are you can raise like your armor rating. It's got its own progression, and as you upgrade your armor, you get more to that tree. And then also all the weapons have upgrades as well. So not only is it an awesome, scary game with a really cool story, awesome fucking lore, cool set pieces, really fun gameplay, but also has progression. So I'm also locked in on like I'm addicted to it kind of way. It's a fun game that I'm working towards stuff, and it's got New Game Plus, so like you can continue that progression if you don't get everything. You're not going to get everything in the first playthrough. And then also the game, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it has a random system where enemies attack you. So there are set enemies that you'll run into in the story, but also like enemies can attack you from like vents at any time. I'm pretty sure they made a system that does that, which always keeps you on edge. I've played this game multiple times, like I said, through it, and I've had different encounters in different rooms with different amounts of enemies in different ways. So it makes the game replayable and dynamic and keeps the scares always possible, which is...
Well, yeah, if you have to question everything, it's going to be unnerving.
Yeah, so it's a really smart design for a game that's so easy to keep playing it, especially when you already know the story. And if you know the story, you probably really like it because it's a really good fucking story. And that's coming from me, somebody who's not really impressed with a lot of stories in games. And so you're playing it for that, but also the gameplay just stays fresh and fun the whole time. So it's really well made. And yeah, overall, like I said, I love this game. I think, and this goes into my experience this month. I was talking about this earlier, and I didn't finish the thought. I played earlier in the month multiple chapters, but then when we played, I played till chapter 3 with you, and I think you got a good gist of it. If you ever wanted me to, I'll finish that game for you easily. I'll keep playing that shit. But I also
got to finish Callisto Protocol.
I want to finish Callisto Protocol with you as well because I've never beaten that game. And that one had an interesting story too. Same dude that made Dead Space. But yeah, I just wanted to throw out how far we got because I stopped playing for obvious reasons. But yeah, overall, I love this game. It was easy for me to play it this month on PS5, and I think it's a really good. I can't say port because I didn't get ported released on everything, but nothing's taken away from the experience on console. I think it worked really well, and yeah, it's too easy for me to play it. Too easy for me to play this shit. It's like such a fucking good game. And the thing I was going to say before I cut myself off, I think this is one of the best survival horror games like ever made. So up there with Silent Hill 2 and Resident Evil, a lot of the Resident Evils, but it's fantastic. It's legendary for a reason. So, and if you haven't played it, you should play it. And if you want to deep dive on the lore, you should, because there's like 300 years of story when it comes to Dead Space, and it's really fucking interesting. It's such a cool story. It's such a waste that we didn't get more Dead Spaces or at least more remakes. It sucks. And like you were saying, when you were like, they could make a show, I'm like, yeah, they should. They should totally. For people who won't play this game, make a show or a movie. Show it, I think it would be better.
Yeah,
to really,
I think it should be better.
To really introduce how fucking cool of a story Dead Space has.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think in most cases, I think video games are probably more... probably better told in a show.
They need to be, because the time you're investing in, just like a lot of books, but like the time you're investing in a game, you're going to lose a lot of that in 2 hour. Yeah. You can do it with the right director, but yeah, a show would be better for it. But it's got to have a budget too, because some shows, first episode's really good, but then after that, they're like, it's a bunch of weird filler. People stand around talking. It's like, yeah, I get it. You don't have the budget for it, but you shouldn't have made it in the first place if you couldn't fulfill it. So, yeah, Dead Space is awesome. I loved playing it this month, and I highly recommend it. With that, we should probably jump into recommendations.
Yep.
If you like horror, survival horror at all, you should play this. If you can't play it because you don't like scary games, watch somebody play it. It's worth your time, 100%. If you like third-person shooters with fun shooting mechanics and you can handle horror, you should play it. If you like sci-fi, dark sci-fi, it's a sci-fi story. It's a futuristic, really cool story. You should play it. If you like progression in games, this offers it, so that's nice. Some survival horror games don't have progression systems, and that's fine because they want to keep the scares. It could get less scary if you get more powerful, but this game balances it really well. So what else? Got anything?
I mean, not really.
If you like Event Horizon, Alien, stuff like that,
like third-person shooters where the enemies are reactive to where you shoot them, because there's still games that come out that have like the most basic feedback, from getting hit. So
Yeah, and enemies in this feel like scary, vicious. They're in your face a lot, and you're just blasting them. And there's like physics and stuff, a lot of cool systems, telekinesis, being able to freeze them in time and shit. Like a lot of really fun gameplay mechanics. So, but it is a horror game, so I have to kind of keep my, loosely. I would say everybody should play it, but a lot of people aren't going to play it. They're not into horror games. So,
right.
But if you are, it's a must play. You got to play it. It's fucking really good. You got anything else?
Nope.
Okay, so let's grade it. You did your impressions first, right? Mm-hmm. All right. This is gonna come off strong. I'm giving it an A+. I love this game. I don't have a single complaint about it. I don't have one complaint. I think it actually excels in the survival horror space, especially AAA survival horror space. I think it excels over most of its competition. And I think this remake did a fantastic job on making an already great game better. Telling a great story, great graphics, awesome gameplay, progression. It's everything you could hope for in terms of a AAA survival horror game, up there with Resident Evil 4 and Silent Hill 2. It is fucking awesome. I love it. A+.
Well, I haven't seen the ending, so it's kind of hard for me to give it like a
I'm coming from that
solid grade, but I will say from the perspective of seeing the beginning of the game, it's a strong start, and I would probably give it an A-. I do think right off the bat, they do a good job of hooking you in and making it interesting. The storytelling happens immediately and is constantly flowing, so like it's really easy to get invested immediately, and then by the time the story starts to slow down so that we can start playing a game, they made sure that the gameplay, at least visually for me, was also satisfying. So without seeing the ending, it's hard for me to like really have a solid opinion. And I do think maybe the story could become more interesting, especially getting those answers to the questions organically probably would have been a little more satisfying as well. But obviously, I was not in a position to really do that. So
yeah, it was really bad. You asked me a question. I was like, so 200 years ago, this thing happened in the Yucatan Peninsula, and then there's this dude named Altman, and then a religion starts. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta keep it to the game.
Yeah. So but yeah, overall, it was enjoyable, and I could very easily watch it. So
yep. All right, well, A- and an A+, definitely a high-quality game, and you should definitely let us know in the comments what you think about Dead Space Remake. Did you play it? Did you not play it? If you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? And if you did play it, what did you like about it? What's some of your favorite features? How do you feel about it in terms of it being a remake of an original game? Did they do a good job, in your opinion, on it being a remake? I've heard a lot of people talk about that already, but I'd be curious to know what you think of it. And yeah, what do you think about the progression system? What do you think about the set pieces? Do you think the game's scary? Do you like the gameplay? And what are some of your favorite survival horror games? I kind of made a huge claim saying this is one of the best ones out there in the AAA space, and I truly believe that. Let me know some of your favorites. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. You got anything? Ted, nothing? All right.
Back to normally scheduled program after this.
Yep. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have a Tasty Cast coming out, back to normal, and anything else that comes up. I don't know if there's anything coming up, but we'll see. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me, Chevy, for this episode. And yeah, stay tuned for the new episodes. I've been Seth, and until the next episode, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.